Is that you, Fred?
Remember that modern Stone Age family that made prehistory feel like 1960s suburbia? The Flintstones wasn't just the first primetime animated sitcom.
Think about a Flintstone show. By that I mean a primetime animated show.
It was a calculated honeymooners ripoff that pioneered adult animation, sparked controversy about cartoon violence, and became the longest-running animated series for 3 decades. Today, we're counting down 40 wild facts about the Bedrock family that proved cartoons could be more than Saturday morning kid stuff. 40. It was a direct ripoff of The Honeymooners. The Flintstones was created by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera as animated version of The Honeymooners.
Flintstones, The Honeymooner, that's the biggest compliment you can give me. Because The Honeymooners is a genius.
Copying the show's working-class characters, marital dynamics, and sitcom structure almost exactly. Fred Flintstone was Ralph Cramden, Wilma was Alice.
Yes, honey?
I must be dreaming. A piano just went by.
Barney was Ed Norton, and Betty was Trixie.
Well, Fred seems to be doing okay so far, Barney.
The plagiarism was so obvious that Jackie Gleason considered suing, but ultimately decided against it, not wanting to be remembered for suing a cartoon. However, Gleason publicly stated he felt ripped off and never forgave Hanna-Barbera for the unauthorized derivative work. 39. Fred and Wilma were first couple shown sharing a bed. The Flintstones featured television's first married couple shown sleeping in the same bed together.
Wilma, you all right?
Yes, Fred.
Whenever you're ready to go, just...
Breaking the twin bed standard enforced since television's inception. Network censors initially demanded separate beds to avoid sexual implications, but Hanna-Barbera argued prehistoric couples obviously shared beds. ABC reluctantly approved the double bed, but prohibited any suggestive situations or dialogue referencing marital intimacy. This seemingly minor detail represented significant shift in television's willingness to acknowledge married couples' physical relationships, influencing future sitcoms to abandon the ridiculous twin bed convention. 38. Winston Cigarettes sponsored the show. Winston Cigarettes was the Flintstones' primary sponsor for first 2 seasons, with Fred and Barney appearing in live-action animated hybrid commercials, enthusiastically promoting smoking.
Best tasting filter cigarette.
Winston tastes good, like a cigarette.
The ads featured the characters explaining Winston's smooth taste, while actual cigarettes appeared on screen. When Wilma became pregnant in the show, sponsors worried about promoting smoking to expectant mothers and toned down cigarette advertising.
America's best-selling, best-tasting filter cigarette.
Winston tastes good like a...
The sponsorship ended completely in 1963 after research linking smoking to cancer became undeniable, making cartoon characters promoting cigarettes to family audiences ethically indefensible and commercially toxic. 37. ABC rejected it 3 times before approval. ABC executives rejected the Flintstones 3 times, calling it too adult for children and too childish for adults. Network research showed audiences wouldn't accept primetime animation featuring prehistoric settings and talking animals. Hanna-Barbera finally secured approval only after agreeing to cigarette sponsorship from Winston, guaranteeing advertising revenue regardless of ratings. The network scheduled it Friday nights at 8:30 p.m. with 0 promotional support, expecting quick cancellation. Instead, it became ABC's first series to finish in Nielsen's top 20, validating primetime animation's commercial viability. 36. Alan Reed based Fred's voice on Art Carney. Voice actor Alan Reed performed Fred Flintstone using vocal patterns and inflections directly copied from Art Carney's Ed Norton character on The Honeymooners. The distinctive Yabba Dabba Doo catchphrase was Reed's improvisation during early recording sessions, not written in scripts. Reed performed Fred for 6 seasons, despite privately finding the character one-dimensional and repetitive. He later admitted taking the role purely for steady income, never expecting the show would run more than 1 season or that Fred would become his most famous and enduring performance. 35. Dino was added. After the first season, Dino, the Flintstones' pet dinosaur, didn't exist during Season 1, but was added in Season 2 because network testing showed children wanted an animal character. Dino's design and behavior were directly copied from dogs.
Heel, Dino! I was prepared for this! Here, Dino! Fetch the bone!
Particularly his enthusiastic jumping and face-licking greeting of Fred. The character served no narrative purpose beyond being cute mascot appealing to young viewers. Voice actor Mel Blanc performed Dino's sounds, essentially doing dog impressions labeled as dinosaur noises. Dino's addition represented network interference, prioritizing merchandising over creative integrity. 34. Pebbles was born to boost ratings. Pebbles. Flintstone was born in Season 3 specifically because ratings were declining and executives demanded fresh storylines. The pregnancy and birth episodes attracted massive viewership, temporarily reversing ratings slide.
Did you say?
Yes, I said your baby.
However, adding a baby fundamentally changed the show's dynamics, forcing writers to include childcare storylines that slowed pacing and limited Fred and Barney's adventures. Pebbles' birth represented network desperation to maintain audience interest through gimmick storytelling rather than improving comedy writing quality. The baby edition worked commercially, but arguably damaged the show creatively. 33. The show cost only $65,000 per episode. Each 25-minute episode cost approximately $65,000 to produce, extraordinarily cheap compared to live-action sitcoms costing $100,000 plus per episode. Hanna-Barbera pioneered limited animation techniques, reducing costs by 70% compared to theatrical animation standards. Characters moved minimally, backgrounds repeated constantly, and walk cycles were recycled endlessly. Critics called the animation crude and barely moving, but the cost savings made primetime animation financially viable. Without these budget innovations, the Flintstones would never have been economically sustainable for weekly television production. 32. The theme song changed multiple times. The iconic Flintstones Meet the Flintstones theme song didn't appear until Season 3.
When you're with the Flintstones,
Seasons 1 and 2 featured instrumental opening, with narration describing the show's premise. The vocal theme was added after research showed audiences couldn't remember the show's name without a catchy song. Composer Hoyt Curtin and lyricist Joseph Barbera wrote the new theme in approximately 2 hours during a lunch meeting. The theme became so iconic that most people assume it was always the show's opening, unaware earlier seasons had completely different music. 31. Barney's voice changed completely. After Season 1, Barney Rubble's voice dramatically changed after Season 1, when original voice actor Daws Butler was replaced by Mel Blanc due to scheduling conflicts. Butler performed Barney with higher pitch and more energetic delivery.
Barney on the Flintstones.
Hey, Fred, let's go pull them, Fred.
That's you?
While Blanc gave him deeper, more nasal voice. The jarring vocal change confused viewers.
No thanks. I'll just have a couple of snacks.
Who noticed their favorite character suddenly sounded completely different. Network executives received complaint letters asking if Barney was sick or if the character had been replaced. Blanc's version became definitive simply through longevity, though animation historians prefer Butler's original interpretation. 30. The dinosaur appliances made no evolutionary sense. The show featured dinosaurs, woolly mammoths, and prehistoric mammals coexisting despite these species being separated by millions of years evolutionarily. Writers simply ignored paleontology, creating fantasy prehistory where any extinct animal could appear regardless of actual timeline. Critics complained the show taught children incorrect science, potentially confusing young viewers about actual prehistory. Hanna-Barbera dismissed these concerns, arguing the show was obviously fantasy comedy, not educational programming. The anachronistic animal mixing became signature element despite scientific impossibility, prioritizing visual comedy over historical accuracy. 29. The show was animated overseas, in extremely poor conditions. All animation was produced in Mexico and the Philippines by underpaid workers in facilities lacking air conditioning or proper ventilation. Animators worked 12-hour days in sweatshop conditions for minimal wages, while Hanna-Barbera profited enormously. The outsourcing saved production costs, but exploited workers in countries with weak labor protections. This practice became standard across animation industry, establishing unethical labor models still used today. Workers received no residuals or credit, despite creating the actual artwork that generated billions in revenue. The Flintstones' success was built partially on labor exploitation, nobody discussed publicly. 28. Winston ads featured Fred and Barney, promoting smoking to children. Winston cigarette commercials aired during the Flintstones featured Fred and Barney explicitly encouraging viewers, including children, to smoke. The ads showed the characters relaxing with cigarettes, claiming smoking was enjoyable and sophisticated. One infamous commercial showed Fred and Barney sneaking cigarettes behind their wives' backs.
Winston break. That's it! Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack.
Presenting smoking as harmless fun, these ads aired during family programming time when millions of children watched. The tobacco company specifically targeted young audiences, using beloved cartoon characters to normalize smoking. Modern viewers find these commercials shocking and ethically indefensible. 27. The show was canceled. Despite decent ratings, ABC canceled The Flintstones in 1966, despite the show still ranking in Nielsen's top 25, pulling respectable ratings that would justify continuation today. The cancellation resulted from networks' desire to attract younger, more affluent demographics that advertisers preferred. The Flintstones skewed older and more working class than ABC wanted, making it commercially undesirable despite viewership numbers. Additionally, 6 seasons of episodes provided sufficient content for lucrative syndication, reducing incentive for expensive new production. The cancellation demonstrated that ratings alone didn't guarantee survival if audience demographics disappointed advertisers. 26. The cars were designed to fail safety regulations. Fred's foot-powered stone car was literally just a log with wheels. No brakes, steering mechanism, or safety features. The vehicle's operation made no physical sense, as Fred's leg power couldn't possibly propel the massive stone weight at shown speeds. Engineers calculated that foot-powered vehicles would be impossibly slow and physically exhausting, making them completely impractical transportation. The cars existed purely for visual comedy, representing Hanna-Barbera's approach of prioritizing jokes over internal logic. The vehicle's impossibility became running gag, with Fred frequently crashing or losing control in slapstick sequences that would be fatal in reality. 25. Mel Blanc recorded Barney's voice from a hospital bed. Voice actor Mel Blanc suffered near-fatal car accident in 1961, spending months hospitalized in full-body cast, unable to move. Rather than recast Barney, Hanna-Barbera brought recording equipment to Blanc's hospital room, having him perform lines while immobilized and heavily medicated. Blanc's dedication to the role, despite severe injuries, demonstrated voice actors' professional commitment, but also revealed studios' willingness to exploit injured performers rather than provide recovery time. The hospital recordings sound noticeably different. Blanc's voice is weaker and less energetic. Modern labor standards would prohibit recording actors in such conditions. 24. The show sparked debate about cartoon violence. Parent advocacy groups criticized the Flintstones for excessive slapstick violence, citing scenes where Fred strangled Barney, hit Wilma, or threw furniture during tantrums. The National Congress of Parents and Teachers called the show unsuitable for children due to Fred's aggressive behavior and anger management problems. Network censors received thousands of complaint letters demanding the violence be toned down. Hanna-Barbera defended the violence as harmless cartoon comedy in the Looney Tunes tradition. However, they quietly reduced violent content in later seasons, though Fred's temper remained his defining characteristic throughout the series. 23. The Rubbles were infertile, and it was never addressed sensitively. Barney and Betty Rubble's inability to have children was ongoing subplot, treated with surprising insensitivity for sitcom about family life.
Cut it out! Stop, Penny! Okay!
The show never explained their childlessness or addressed the emotional pain of infertility. When they adopted Bam Bam in season 4, it happened suddenly without showing the adoption process or emotional journey.
Mr. Ruffles, here you are. I understand how you must feel. So long, Bam Bam.
The storyline reflected 1960s television's discomfort, discussing reproductive issues openly. Modern viewers find the show's handling of the Rubble's infertility problematic, wishing the emotional reality had been acknowledged rather than treated as plot convenience. Bam Bam's adoption felt like afterthought rather than meaningful character development. 22. The Lodge episodes were shameless filler. Content: Fred's Water. Buffalo Lodge storylines were lazy filler episodes created when writers couldn't develop actual plots. These episodes featured Fred and Barney attending lodge meetings filled with repetitive fraternal order jokes and ritual humor. The lodge served no narrative purpose beyond consuming screen time with minimal animation. Characters sat in meeting hall talking.
We'll end the meeting, as always, singing the Water Buffalo song,
requiring almost no new animation production. Critics called these episodes the worst in the series, noting they abandoned the show's suburban family comedy premise for boring fraternal organization humor that appealed to nobody. The Lodge episodes represented creative bankruptcy masquerading as character development. 21. The show's prehistoric technology made no logical sense. The show's technological contradictions were staggering. Characters had Stone Age tools, but also televisions, telephones, and complex machinery powered by dinosaurs or manual labor. No explanation addressed how prehistoric civilization developed advanced technology without electricity.
Television set.
Good evening, friends. This is your mystery hour.
Metallurgy, or scientific knowledge. The technological inconsistency existed purely for comedy, allowing writers to create modern situations in prehistoric setting without bothering with logical world-building. Fans eventually accepted the show existed in fantasy universe where technology level fluctuated based on comedic necessity rather than consistent rules. The contradiction became so extreme it was essentially magical realism disguised as prehistory. 20. Jean Vanderpil voiced Wilma for only $75. Per episode, voice actress Jean Vanderpil performed Wilma Flintstone throughout the entire series for approximately $75 per episode, roughly $650 in today's money. Despite being female lead in primetime television series, she received minimal compensation with no residuals or royalties from syndication or merchandise. Vanderpil worked primarily out of love for the character rather than financial reward, as the payment barely covered living expenses. Her exploitation exemplified how voice actors were undervalued and underpaid, despite creating iconic characters generating millions in revenue. Modern voice actors cite Vanderpil's treatment as example of historical labor injustice in animation industry. 19. The show featured casual domestic violence. Multiple episodes showed Fred physically threatening Wilma, raising his fist or grabbing her during arguments in ways that would be considered domestic violence today. While he never actually struck her, the threatening behavior was played for comedy rather than addressed as problematic. These scenes reflected 1960s television's normalization of male aggression toward wives as acceptable sitcom humor. Modern audiences find these moments deeply uncomfortable, recognizing behavior patterns associated with abuse. The show's casual treatment of physical intimidation as comedy reveals how dramatically social attitudes about domestic violence have evolved over 60 years. 18. The Christmas episode violated the show's entire premise. The 1964 Christmas special, Christmas Flintstone, featured Santa Claus visiting Bedrock, completely contradicting the show's prehistoric setting where Christmas shouldn't exist. The episode never explained how Christian holiday existed thousands of years before Christianity's founding. Writers simply ignored this massive continuity problem because sponsors demanded holiday special for merchandise sales. The episode represented creative surrender to commercial demands, abandoning internal logic for profit. Fans debated whether the Christmas special was canonical or existed in alternate timeline. The special's success led to more holiday episodes, similarly violating the show's established prehistoric setting. 17. Bam Bam's superhuman strength was never explained. Bam Bam Rubble possessed inexplicable superhuman strength, allowing him to lift boulders and demolish structures as a toddler. The show never explained this ability's origin. No radioactive incident, genetic mutation, or special training justified his powers.
Bam, bam!
That's hitting the old tent stake, Bam, my boy.
Writers simply gave him strength because it was visually funny, ignoring questions about how normal human child could possess such abilities. The unexplained superpower violated the show's otherwise non-magical universe, where technology, not superpowers, created comedy. Bam Bam's strength became accepted through repetition, despite making no narrative sense, representing writers' willingness to prioritize gags over consistent world-building. 16. The bowling episodes were paid product placement. Multiple episodes featured Fred bowling at the Bedrock Bowling Alley, with prominent focus on bowling as activity. These episodes were paid product placement by the Bowling Proprietors Association of America, attempting to promote bowling as family entertainment. The organization paid Hanna-Barbera to feature bowling prominently, essentially turning episodes into advertisements. The bowling content felt forced and repetitive, with critics noting Fred's bowling obsession served no character development purpose. This represented early example of product placement in television programming, where commercial interests dictated storyline content rather than creative needs driving narrative choices. 15. The show's depiction of women was regressive. The Flintstones portrayed women as housewives whose primary concerns were shopping, gossiping, and managing households, while men worked and made decisions. Wilma and Betty had no careers, hobbies, or identities beyond their marriages, despite being intelligent, capable characters. The show reinforced 1960s gender stereotypes, even as real women were entering workforce and demanding equality. Episodes where Wilma got job portrayed it as threatening Fred's masculinity, requiring resolution through her returning to housewife role. The regressive gender politics reflected television's conservative resistance to acknowledging changing women's roles in society. 14. The animation was so limited characters barely moved. Hanna-Barbera's limited animation meant characters stood motionless while only mouths moved during dialogue scenes. Walk cycles repeated every few steps with identical movements. Backgrounds scrolled past stationary characters rather than animating actual walking. Only 6 to 8 frames per second were used compared to theatrical animation's 24 frames. Critics called the animation jerky and lifeless, noting it looked cheap and unfinished. However, these severe limitations made television animation financially possible, establishing production models still used today. The Flintstones proved audiences accepted crude animation if writing and voice acting were strong. 13. The Great Gazoo nearly killed the show. The Great Gazoo, a green alien who appeared in the final season, was universally hated addition that critics blamed for the show's creative decline. The character could perform magic, completely undermining the show's established prehistoric setting with no supernatural elements. Gazoo appeared only to Fred and Barney, creating sitcom trope of magical helper solving problems rather than characters resolving situations themselves. Fans immediately recognized Gazoo as desperate gimmick, indicating creative exhaustion. The character represented exactly what happens when shows run too long, introducing increasingly absurd elements trying to generate interest when original premise has been exhausted. 12. Alan Reed and John Stevenson had bitter rivalry. Voice actors Alan Reed, Fred, and John Stevenson, various characters, feuded throughout production, with Reed jealous of Stevenson's versatility and wider vocal range. Reed felt threatened by Stevenson's ability to voice multiple characters, while Reed could only perform Fred convincingly. The rivalry created tension during recording sessions, with both actors refusing to record together, forcing separate recordings and editing their dialogue together. This professional animosity contrasted sharply with the show's themes of friendship. Their feud exemplified competitive insecurity among voice actors, fighting for limited roles in animation industry with minimal job security. 11. The show was originally titled The Flagstones. The Flintstones was originally titled The Flagstones during development, with characters named Fred and Wilma Flagstone. However, the Flagstones name was too similar to the comic strip Hi and Lois, which featured the Flagstone family, creating potential trademark conflict. Hanna-Barbera changed the name to Flintstones just weeks before premiere, requiring last-minute script revisions and animation adjustments. Some early promotional materials still listed the original title, confusing advertisers and media outlets. The rushed name change exemplified the chaotic production process, where legal issues forced creative compromises at the last minute. 10. Episodes cost nothing to produce after initial animation. Once character models and backgrounds were created, producing additional episodes became extremely cheap since animation was constantly recycled. The same walk cycles, backgrounds, and character movements appeared in dozens of episodes with minimal new animation required. By season 3, approximately 60% of each episode consisted of reused animation from previous episodes, with only dialogue and minimal new shots created fresh. This aggressive asset reuse made later seasons incredibly profitable since production costs dropped dramatically while advertising revenue remained constant. The financial model proved television animation could become more profitable over time through recycling existing assets. 9. The show was banned in several countries. Multiple countries banned the Flintstones or heavily censored content, particularly scenes of Fred's violence and cigarette advertising. Sweden prohibited the show entirely, calling it American cultural imperialism promoting consumerism and violence. East Germany banned it as capitalist propaganda, glorifying suburban materialism. Middle Eastern countries objected to Wilma and Betty's clothing being too revealing. These international rejections limited the show's global reach and demonstrated how American cultural values embedded in the show didn't translate universally. The bans cost Hanna-Barbera millions in potential international licensing revenue. 8. The cast never received residuals from syndication. Voice actors received no residual payments despite the Flintstones generating hundreds of millions in syndication revenue over decades. Alan Reed, Gene Vanderpyle, and others received only their initial per-episode fees, with no participation in the show's enormous financial success. This exploitation was standard practice before voice actors unionized and demanded residual compensation. The Flintstones cast watched their work generate massive profits while receiving nothing beyond initial minimal payments. Their treatment became rallying cry for voice actor labor rights, demonstrating how performers were exploited before stronger union protections. 7. Fred Flintstone appeared in more commercials than any character. Fred Flintstone became television's most used commercial spokesperson, appearing in over 3,000 different advertisements between 1961 to 1997. He promoted cigarettes, vitamins, cereals, cars, theme parks, and countless other products. The character's commercial ubiquity far exceeded his cultural relevance, with Fred becoming more recognizable as spokesperson than as sitcom character. This commercialization demonstrated how intellectual property could be more valuable as marketing tool than as entertainment content. Hanna-Barbera prioritized licensing revenue over creative integrity, allowing Fred to promote anything regardless of brand alignment with the show's values. 6. The show's premiere was ratings disaster. The Flintstones' September 30th, 1960 premiere earned only 22% audience share, disappointing ratings that nearly led to immediate cancellation. ABC executives considered pulling the show after 3 episodes due to poor performance against established Friday night competition. Only Winston's guaranteed advertising payments kept the show on air long enough to find an audience. Ratings gradually improved through word of mouth, but the rocky start demonstrated that even groundbreaking shows need time to connect with audiences. The network's patience, motivated by financial contracts rather than creative faith, accidentally saved television animation's future. 5. Wilma's maiden name created continuity. Nightmare. Wilma's maiden name changed between episodes, sometimes Pebble, sometimes Slaghoople, due to different writers not coordinating character backstories. The show had no series Bible documenting character details, allowing contradictory information across episodes. This sloppiness extended to other continuity issues. The Flintstones' address changed, Fred's job responsibilities varied wildly, and timeline inconsistencies made determining how long they'd been married impossible. The continuity failures revealed how little Hanna-Barbera cared about narrative consistency, treating each episode as standalone rather than serialized storytelling. Modern shows' obsessive continuity management contrasts sharply with the Flintstones' casual indifference. 4. The show pioneered the animated sitcom genre. Before the Flintstones, animation was exclusively children's entertainment shown Saturday mornings or theatrical shorts. The show proved animation could deliver adult-oriented comedy for primetime audiences, establishing template every subsequent animated sitcom followed. Without the Flintstones' commercial success, shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park would never have been greenlit. Network executives needed proof that primetime animation could attract adult audiences and generate advertising revenue. The Flintstones provided that proof, fundamentally transforming animation from children's medium to legitimate adult entertainment format, capable of sophisticated storytelling. 3. The closing credits featured groundbreaking innovation. The Flintstones' closing sequence showing Fred locking the cat out became television's most iconic ending, but it was created purely to extend episode runtime to required length. The sequence had no narrative purpose beyond filling approximately 20 seconds, while credits rolled. However, the simple visual storytelling, Fred preparing for bed and dealing with persistent cat, resonated with audiences as perfect ending encapsulation of suburban family life. The sequence was animated once and reused for all 166 episodes, making it possibly the most viewed animation sequence in television history. Its efficiency and memorability influenced how future shows approached closing sequences. 2. The show's merchandise generated more revenue than the show. By 1964, Flintstones merchandise was generating over $50 million annually, far exceeding what ABC paid for the show itself. Toys, clothing, vitamins, and hundreds of other products bearing Flintstone characters created unprecedented licensing empire. Hanna-Barbera realized intellectual property licensing was more profitable than television production, fundamentally changing their business model toward character creation for merchandising rather than quality storytelling. This realization transformed animation industry, establishing pattern where shows existed primarily as vehicles for toy sales rather than entertainment. The Flintstones proved characters could be more valuable as brands than as television content. 1. It proved animation could be primetime entertainment. The Flintstones' greatest legacy was shattering the assumption that animation was exclusively children's medium inappropriate for adult primetime audiences. The show demonstrated animation could deliver sophisticated sitcom storytelling, tackle adult themes like marriage and work frustrations, and attract family audiences, including adults. Its success convinced networks that animation deserved primetime slots alongside live-action programming. Without the Flintstones proving commercial viability, the entire landscape of adult animation, from The Simpsons to modern anime, might not exist. The show fundamentally transformed animation from dismissed children's entertainment to legitimate storytelling medium capable of sophisticated adult content.